Have you ever had a close friend cross a line in your relationship? If so, what happened? She kept acquiring more cats. She couldn't afford to spay/neuter them, so they bred, and instead of finding them homes, kept them all while she continued to buy more and more cats. She was living in the basement of a small townhouse. The tiny space was about the size of 3 dorm rooms. In this space she had 1 dog, a bird, and 18 cats. She couldn't afford to feed them all. I tried to help her, and get her food for the cats, but she just used my help to justify getting more cats. I made her promise to not get any more cats until all of her were spayed and neutered. She said yes, then bought 2 gray kittens. I just couldn't be friends with an animal hoarder. Did you call animal control on her? Cause those poor animals have no one else to advocate for them. Sad face. I didn't have to. Someone else did first. When I was 12 and my brother was 10, I had over one of my only friends at the time. Moved a town over, new school, I was awkward. He liked to throw knives into trees. Odd thing to let a 12-year-old do, but hey, boys are weird and we liked ninjas. On day he threw a knife into a wall in my house. Not that big of a deal to 12-year-old me, but it happened to be a foot away from my brother's head. He knew what he did, thought it would be funny, and said he knew it would miss. I literally threw him out of my house and didn't speak to him for years. Respect for being protective of your little bro. I was the only one that got to beat him up, winking face. I was living with my cousin while in college. Summer break came in and I was leaving for 2 months for classes abroad. My cousin stayed at our apartment and asked if his friend could crash in my room. No biggie, as long as he's clean and does not make a mess. Came back 2 months later, I found my sheets and pillow crispy and covered in cum. Said my use and go to hell. Bought new sheets and pillow, and started looking for a new apartment the next day. Moved out the next month. Yo, that's nasty, man. I can't believe his friend couldn't just buy him new sheets. Been there, done that, minus the sew and the drawers. My grad school friend was only supposed to stay for a week or so while looking for her own place in the area. It turned into more than a month. My housemate at the time finally confronted her and told her if she wanted to stay longer, she had to pay rent. She had offered some money, but not nearly as much as we all paid in rent. She then spun all kinds of lies and accused me of exploiting her before she finally got the hint and left. It was bad. I lost the friendship, ended up paying the entire utilities bill myself the next month, which I usually split with housemates, to make up for the fact that the situation had gotten so unpleasant, and as the cherry on the sundae, former friend painted me and my housemates as the bad guys when she told the story to a close mutual friend. These days, I have a hard 2-day limit for anyone staying over, and it's made clear beforehand, no matter who it is and how much I trust them. It's said that it has to be that way, but never again with all that crap. No good deed goes unpunished. I work as a volunteer youth leader. Last year found out my best friend, who was also a youth leader, was a sociopathic pest. And potentially nearly 30 girls, a fair few being kids we worked with. He'd choose his targets well, knowing who he could keep quiet and who couldn't, then manipulated them into silence. It only took one person coming out for the church we worked for to investigate him, and everything came to light. Currently waiting for the police to make a move, and hopefully he rots in prison. I hope those girls are going to be okay. Sad face. It's tricky. I only know names of a few people involved. The ones I know seem to be doing a bit better. But yeah, it is something scarring, so they could be putting on the brave face. He tried to get my GF at the time to break up with me so he could date her. Luckily she saw what he was doing. He and I were not friends for long after that. I was pretty torn up by that betrayal. Mine was the opposite. Best friend set up his GF to try and seduce me to see if I would stab him in his back given the opportunity. I saw through it since she was a pretty actor and the whole thing seemed like a setup, plus I was high as in paranoid. Shockingly, the friendship didn't last, though that was more a result of me wanting to clean up my life, and all he wanted to do was go to bars every night with coke-fueled after parties once last call came around. Friends don't entrap each other. If you don't trust me, why are we friends? If you don't trust me, why are we friends? No kidding. Did he ever explain why? Finally, a question I have an answer to. Basically I had a friend throughout high school. Seemed like a pretty chill guy, a bit of a dick but so was I, so I just went with it. Between my junior and senior years though I went through some pretty major lifestyle changes, namely not being an asshole to everyone I met. He however did not. The thing that really ended that friendship for me though was when he faked being suicidal and abusing drugs in an attempt to get one of our mutual friends, now my girlfriend, to date him. It was honestly one of the cruelest things I've seen a person do in an attempt to get with a girl. Somehow though that wasn't enough, and he still borderline stalks her to this day. Creepy as hell, and I wish I had drawn the line a little sooner. Live and learn, I guess. Edit, dick not duck. Had a friend who would occasionally make comments that would make me uncomfortable regarding my appearance and my smile and things. Then increasingly over time, with alcohol and weed involved, he would start making comments. He would purposefully get me high and when I was almost sleeping say things like, "Oh no, don't fall asleep, why don't we just tug each other off?" I kind of found it hard to believe because he had never mentioned being gay or anything like that, although he made a lot of gay jokes. I put that and the few incidents that followed down to him just being drunk. Then one night he brought round poppers that he'd apparently found and just came right out and asked me to suck him off when we were drunk. I've not been sure what to do about it since. This was months ago now, but I'm still not sure if I could ever be friends with the dude and have a drink with him again. I was dating a guy for about a month, told my best friend all about him and how much I liked him. My friend and I had tickets to a music festival and the guy decided last minute he was going to come also because he liked some of the bands that were there. Went to the festival, had a great time and got an Uber back to an Airbnb we had rented for the weekend. Walked in, guy I was dating went to the room we were sleeping in to lay down. I go into the kitchen to get water, hear guy yelling my name, walk in on my best friend on top of guy straddling him. Uncomfortable confrontation ensues. Edit, wow, I don't ever comment on anything ever, so this is new for me. For that reason, I gave you the most condensed version I could while trying to have the story still make sense. This happened a year ago. My friend and I had been friends for 9 years. There were a lot of comments about the drinking, and I agree it is not her main issue and all the drinking does is make her issues worse. My immediate reaction after I walked in the room because the guy was calling my name, asking for me to come help him, when I saw her on top of him was shock, and I was instantly furious with the two of them. Also, they both had clothes on. I said something along the lines of, "I don't know what the is going on, but I am not okay with this, and I'm not sure how either of you think it is okay either." She immediately got off of him, mumbled "I'm sorry" and retreated to her room and passed out. I started packing my stuff and said I was leaving because at that point I was so angry I was done with both of them. Guy talked to me for almost an hour afterwards, confused why I was mad at him, and eventually when I calmed down realized he didn't do anything wrong. She came into his room unsolicited and called for me to come back the moment it got out of hand. I didn't talk to her for months afterwards. She contacted me and asked why I was being distant. I explained what happened. She didn't remember it, or so she claimed. It's taken a long time, but we are still friends. I've created more distance between us, we don't hang out as much, and I know now she is someone I can't fully trust. As for me and the guy, we have been dating now for 10 months. I had one very close friend who was never exactly a laid-back guy, because he was very ambitious. I think he saw himself destined for greater things. Which was never a problem. I mean, I am an Asperger's and I know that I am a bit different and strange sometimes as well, so. We went through thick and thin together and helped each other through rough times. But then he decided to become a banker and he became increasingly distanced. Then, he became an employee of the German Central Bank, and that was when things really went downhill. I drove a couple of hundreds of kilometers on his birthday, hoping for a fun time. It was not. He had a party and I felt completely out of place. From his old friends only 2 were invited anyway, and we rest were his new fancy banker friends. And then we caught him making apologies to them for us. Because we came in casual clothing, not in suits that cost half of a month's salary. Because we were laid back and were making jokes. Because we told stories about our former adventures. He explained to them that he grew out of that and that he grew up, while we apparently would still need time to find our way. He felt embarrassed because of us. Apparently a nurse and a geologist were beneath his dignity. Next time we met he acted like nothing happened and was back to his old self. But after a quite relaxed time, he became a bit nervous and tried to get rid of us with all kinds of excuses. This was explained when one of his banker friends joined the scene. Apparently they wanted to go out for an evening in town, but we were not good enough anymore to stay around. So I've directly asked him if he felt embarrassed for us. He looked away and said nothing. And that was the end of our friendship.